Hello dear viewers and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Maverick, where today we are going to be continuing our watch of the Saga of Tanya Evo with episode 11. So, last weekend I hope you guys had fun with my pre-recorded content of Youjo Senki. Like I said, I was on vacation, but I still had to put up some content, right? And in any case, where we left off last episode, Tanya's in a bit of a pinch, right? So it seems that reinforcements from the Allied Kingdom are here right when the Republic is on the cusp of collapsing. They've had their forces surrounded in a similar situation to World War II, with the encirclement, and which eventually manifested into the evacuation at Dunkirk. I'm assuming that something similar will happen here as well, although the geographical location might be someplace different. Right. So we got 2 episodes left until the finale, till the ending of this season. And I'm gonna venture a guess and say probably we will end with the Republic surrendering to the Empire, and maybe a standoff between the Empire and the Allied Kingdom, and perhaps the United States as well, if they, or at least some kind of foreshadowing of involvement of the United States. Well, not the United States per se, but the equivalent of United States within this anime. I forgot what they were called. So that's that. So some things to look out for, at least for me, is how they are going to portray the evacuation of Dunkirk. They gotta have leave some power back to the other forces other than the Empire. Otherwise, it'd pretty much be the Empire steamrolling from everybody else, right? So they have to have some way of conserving their strength. Also, again, how exactly the United States is going to get involved, it'll be interesting to see that. And yeah, I think that should be about it. The equivalent of the Russian Federation hasn't really done anything so far for this season, so I'm not expecting anything to happen right here as well. But in any case, those are my predictions. Let's just see what's going on within this episode. And let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Okay. And then they were ambushed. Can she actually drink alcohol if she wanted to? That's a good question. Well, not so fast. Oh, no, they got the drop on you. But seriously, how are they able to, like, sneak up on them? Don't they have, like, some magical sensing power or something? Oh. Or you guys could just, I don't know, go up. I mean, if you go up, they can't actually pursue you, can they? Still an opening? Alright. Hold on just a second. Let me skip this. Resistance. Last remaining pockets of resistance. 600 seconds. Looks like heavy losses for the 203rd as well. Yeah, thank you. You guys have an altitude advantage. Ooh. What's that? Okay. Hiding into the clouds. Would this be some sort of fog warfare? And then hide back in? Yep. Sort of like a swamp warfare, actually. Man, this is some nice animation. Oh, there's this guy. Trench guns? Is that like a shotgun? Oh, that's like the same. Dang. Isn't that all three of the lieutenants? Oh, is he gonna... So... Dang. You might want to use like that power against maybe this dude. Dang. This is some quality animation right here. Oh. And is he going to self-explode or something? Just cut his hand off! Like, come on, you got a bayonet in your hand. Like, blow his head off already. Come on, quit being so dramatic. Thank you! Like, would it hurt you guys to, like, try to behead him or something? Come on, Tanya. Haven't you ever seen zombies before? Hmm. Alright. I think that's about it. Hmm. Like, look at those armor units there. Ah. Oh. Okay. You know, I actually wasn't expecting Tanya to uh, save the life of Wace by, you know, putting herself in harm's way. Unexpected. Oh, they've marched into Paris. Hmm. In this episode? That means there's one more... There's one more episode. But for what? Hmm. Mm-hmm. うん。Alright. She's in church. Hmm? The war is over? Still the major? You'd think she'd be promoted by now. Somewhere in the Republic. Alright. Move. Okay. So just a temp. Evacuation of Dunkirk? No, it's not that. Don't you need to maybe get permission first? Yeah, they're trying to evacuate their main forces, right? Trying to gather as much supplies and men, equipment as possible to fight another day. Hmm. 这还是 Hmm? well. What can I say? But that is a fairly accurate portrayal of events that would happen. Alrighty, so this episode ended a lot more different than I originally expected. It definitely had a different turn of events from what I was predicting, and I quite enjoyed it. They didn't actually do the Dunkirk evacuation, but instead made it into an event that had the same result, if you will. So the end result of this is the same as the Dunkirk evacuation, except that it didn't completely copy historical events. But let's talk about that in order, right? So first of all, we had this first half, which is the big battle between the 203rd with the Allied Kingdom mages and also Anson Sui, right? So there are a few things I like about this, including the fact that they eventually did use their altitude advantage. Like, seriously, that's a big advantage. Use it whenever you can. And also, I really like the fact that they tried to sort of do guerrilla warfare and hit and run tactics by hiding in the clouds, right? So I feel like that was a really smart move. By hiding in the clouds and then doing hit and runs, you know, you can just come out for a few seconds, snipe out the enemy mages that you're targeting, and that you have already predetermined, and then immediately fall back to the safety of the clouds as well. It's sort of like swamp warfare or whatnot, but it's forcing the enemy to either move back, move to a safe distance, or it's forcing them to also engage in melee combat within the clouds as well, right? And in which case the 203rd would have the upper hand because individually they would be more skilled, more powerful, more talented than their opposing counterparts. Now, sadly, they didn't really take this to the extreme, and instead they decided to just hide in there for a little bit and then come out and then re-engage again. So that to me was kind of a bummer. I felt like that was a tactical mistake, but in any case, that's a little bit of nitpicking, right? And I guess they do need to make it a little bit more exciting, if you will, so actually have some stakes on hand. And speaking of stakes on hand, Anson Sui, I do hope this is the actual last we see of him. Otherwise, he's getting a little bit annoying, being this unkillable cockroach, right? And Tanya, I guess it's understandable that she's shocked how Anson Sui is still surviving, and maybe she defocused a little bit with that. But seriously, the entire time I was screaming to her, come on, just like behead him or something. Make sure that there's no way he's coming back. right? It's not like it's that hard, especially when you guys are engaging in melee combat and, you have a bayonet, you have another knife in your hand, right? So, or, I mean, you have a gun in your hand. Instead of shooting at the body, since you're already in close quarters anyways, why don't you shoot the head, right? Tanya, I guess, hasn't really seen many zombie movies or whatnot. Otherwise, I say she wouldn't make this kind of mistake. But anyways, that's that part. What's more interesting to me within this episode is in the portrayal of events leading up to the evacuation, right? So again, historically, the evacuation of Dunkirk was important because it allowed the Allies to conserve a lot of their strength. Now, it was mostly British soldiers that evacuated because they were already in France fighting at that time. Now, in this case, in this anime, the forces are all purely from the Republic, but I mean, the end result is the same, right? It conserves the forces for these allies, these allied countries, so that they can live to fight another day. Now, something that I do want to mention is that I believe the translations for this episode were a little bit inaccurate, and I say this because I do believe that it wasn't an armistice they were talking about within this episode. So here, let me give a brief explanation, right? Typically, in order to, the steps towards the end of the war, you can basically say, follow a certain pattern, right? First of all, you would have the ceasefire, and following the ceasefire, you would have maybe an armistice or maybe a direct surrender, and then at the very end you would have the peace treaty or the surrender as well, right? Or you could also skip all of that and just have an unconditional surrender. That's also possible, but for the purposes of this case, let's do it in the most, I guess, should I say normal way? Anyways, the method of having a ceasefire and then an armistice and then a peace treaty, right? Now, it is kind of confusing when you use it, when you go through these steps in Japanese, because a lot of the words are very similar or just variations of each other. So the ceasefire within Japanese would be teisen, whereas an armistice in Japanese would be teisen kyote, right? So they sound very similar, and in fact, it's just a more complicated version of a teisen or a ceasefire, and this would eventually lead to a kyosen kyote, which is a actual peace treaty or cease of hostilities or something like that. So the reason why I'm saying that they probably made a mistake here is because of what these entail, right? A ceasefire, what it means is basically that the two sides are to stop fighting, maybe temporarily, maybe permanently, but it doesn't require both sides to follow any orders from the other side. It's simply, okay, let's not point our guns at each other and fight anymore, right? At least for now. But there's no restriction on troop movements or whatnot, and you can do whatever you want to do. You can advance, well, probably not advance, but you can retreat or move to another area or whatnot, and the other side doesn't really have any say on what you do, right? Now, an armistice is a little bit different. An armistice is usually declared, when an armistice is declared, there's normally a winning side and then a losing side, right? And the winning side would dictate the terms to the losing side. So in this case, they might say, okay, please lay down your arms, please demobilize, please move your armies to whatever position, please give up your supplies, things of that nature, right? And that's exactly why Tanya here specifically clarified, what exactly is being discussed right now. So judging from this context, I believe that what is being discussed is that they are actually only negotiating a ceasefire and not actually an armistice or a peace treaty or surrender, right? So what this means is that the Republic are entirely within their reason to move their armies, I guess south in this case, and move to near a harbor, near a port, in order to evacuate, right? Because this is just a ceasefire. The Empire has no say in how how the Republic moves their armies, right? Now, if this was an armistice, then they would probably say, okay, stop all troop movements, stay where you are, and whatnot, right? And if in this case the Republic decided to disobey these terms, then the war would continue, right? And it would be a violation of the terms by the Republic, and well, I know who will actually punish them, but still, you guys get what I mean. So in this case, because this is only a ceasefire, the Republic main force can, or at least a bulk or a crucial part of the force can evacuate, and then eventually, even when they do sign an armistice or a peace treaty, I'm sure the Empire would start laying down some terms in regards to the armies, in regards to armed mobilization or demoralization, and give these terms to the Republic. But by that time, the evacuated soldiers, they can just declare themselves to be independent of authority of the new Republic government, right? The one that surrendered and the one that is negotiating with the Empire. And so, what can the Empire do at that point? Nothing, right? So Tanya recognizes this, and that's why she wants to completely crush the forces before they have a chance to go. And that is entirely within reason, entirely reasonable. And there's a saying where if you want to get rid of the weeds for good, you gotta pick it up by the roots, right? Or so in this case, they're not picking it up by the roots. They're just clearing out the visible weed, the visible grass, right? Eventually it's going to grow back and then become a menace again. So this is also hinted at by the scene outside the church with the boys bullying a certain kid. That certain kid still, he has hatred, he has revenge on his mind, so he's still fighting back, as well as Anson Sui, right? So Anson Sui came back numerous times because he wants revenge as well. So Tanya knows the implications of this, and that's why she wants to take out all the troops of the Republic. It does give me a lot of parallel to, I guess, if we're looking at it from a United States perspective, maybe the Korean War or maybe the First Gulf War, right? You can see parallels between this, where they had a chance to completely obliterate the enemy forces, but they chose not to in order to not continuing to escalate the situation, right? So, in a sense, you can't really say who's right and who's wrong. From a politician standpoint, from a country government standpoint, everybody wants peace, right? They don't want to continue fighting this, which is a huge waste of resources, huge waste of manpower and whatnot. So if there's a chance for peace, it would be normal for politicians to say, okay, just don't do anything to further aggravate the situation. We're nearing peace. This is important, right? Now, on the other hand, like I said, for the short term, maybe this is the best, but long term wise, you're gonna have a lot of things on your plate within the years to come. And in fact, in this case, the ceasefire might only turn out to be just a ceasefire, and they would be setting up a new government overseas or something like that, right? But so yeah, that's that. And by the way, I do want to praise this episode in particular for two things. One is the emotional outburst by Tanya when she learned of how she was being ordered to not engage the Republic remainder forces. I feel like the voice acting and the visuals during that part really sold the scene's emotions, so I really dig that part. And the second part would be the fighting between the Tuatha and the allied mages. I feel like, the animation for this is something that I don't typically it's not like it's something that's spectacular that you want to call it out every single episode. But in this case, I do feel like the fight between the Tuatha and the allied mages was quite smooth and quite cool to look at. So props to them there. But in any case, that was episode 11 of the Saga of Tanya the Evil. Next episode would be the finale. Let's see. Maybe they'll see the consequences of not actually eradicating the Republic army within this episode. Maybe we'll see the consequences of that next episode. Maybe they'll continue fighting. Maybe the United States will join the war. I don't really know. But in any case, it's been a fun ride, and It's sad that this anime is nearing its end, but, well, all things have to come to an end someday, right? But in any case, I will see you guys hopefully all together for the finale of this season of the Saga of Tanya the Evil. So, until then, stay tuned, and bye-bye.